Alright, so today we would like to talk about something related to the game, how to design game and incorporate that concept to improve or to increase the immersion inside our VR application later. And it's also going to be useful for your Minecraft application as well. Before we begin, I would like to check whether everyone's getting in or not yet. Okay, please make sure that you select or opt the H to or hadir to mark your attendance for today's course, and please let everyone know that we close the presence or the attendance entry up to 10:15. Okay, so we only have 15 minutes tolerance for the presence. Please make sure that everyone's understand about this rule. I believe that I have stated that in the beginning of our course. And for today's course, we would like to use Zoom. And please tell your friends if maybe some of your friends still waiting for me to open the Teams meeting. For today's case, it's not. It's my personal choice. I would like to try to use Zoom for today. And in case that you prefer not to use Zoom, I give you some alternative. I also online through the YouTube. Maybe I can give you the link as well. I will put it on Discord. We will. I need to state this. We are online via Zoom meeting. Please check my ITS classroom or above post. I remember that I posted for a previous post. Oh, okay, in the link Zoom, I think. My post on link Zoom and via YouTube. Alright, so I'm gonna share my screen now. I mean my PowerPoint slide. Alright, so here we go. Hopefully you can see my slides clearly. Yeah, today's topic is about the mental immersion through game. We want to leverage game to mentally immerse the users while playing VR. Hopefully you still remember that last 2 weeks we talked about immersion and fidelity, and then what else? There's some other abstract elements of reality that is still very important for us to note and for us to implement or apply those abstract concepts into our VR applications later. And today we would like to specifically dig deep into the immersion aspect, and maybe I will need to recall some of the concept from the previous 2 weeks meeting, this one. So in the term of reality covers several things, 4 things at least in the slide. The first one is the word. We learned about what is the augmented reality, virtual reality, augmented virtuality, and then the physical reality, of course, the real life, and then some what's so called the continuum, the reality virtuality continuum, and those within the reality virtuality continuum is included under one umbrella that is called extended reality. Hopefully you still remember about this word concepts. And then we haven't yet gone into the interactivity and the sensory feedback. Hopefully we can cover that later in our next meetings. And for today, we still try to continue the previous discourse about the immersion. Immersion is one of the elements in reality, so it's still very important, even though it's kind of very abstract in our mind. I would like to remind you as well that the definition of immersion is a sensation of being in another environment. And this kind of sensation does not require necessarily the users to be physically inside that new environment. And as well as in our today's topic, we specifically talk about something that is not physically related with some virtual or real new environment. The one that we are going to talk today is more about something in a mental way. Okay, so I told you in the previous meeting about the phenomenon, for example, that when you watch a movie, or some of you maybe love to watch a Korean drama, or maybe your moms watch Indian Bollywood, or maybe some Indonesian sinetron. Usually you are kind of fall into a situation that you were crying, or you are in a empathy state. You felt what the actors or the actresses feel at that moment, even though they were acting actually. So in that occasion and that moment, actually you were already mentally immersed in that K-drama, or the Bollywood drama, or the Hollywood movie, or the Cinetron's environment. Something that is kind of separate from your own reality, from your physical reality, right? So that is the one that I would like to mention. So you are in the state of being deeply engaged, especially when you cry for your Lee Min-ho or anyone else. Okay, and there's of course some physical immersion when we are entering a virtual world with some new medium, and then some synthetic stimulus, some sensors, some virtual headset attached to our head or vision, etc. So that is a part of the physical immersion. Today's topic again is more about the mental immersion. Before we get deeper into this topic for more, I would like to invite you, as always, open your web browser and then type menti.com, www.menti.com, and then enter the following code 9177687. Okay, I have one question there, open-ended question about what is game. So please give your opinion as much, not as much as you like. You can type as short words or long sentences, all is fine. After you give your answer, I will read it, your opinion, each one of you, one by one. Okay, so again, please open your web browser, and I may need to open my own browser as well. Oh, wait, where's that? This one. And here we go. So I saw that there's already one answers to my question in here. Everyone, please start to vote. Not to vote. Start to give your answers. Right, I will wait. It seems that we already have 3 participants answering or giving their opinion. So maybe I'll just start to read the statements or the sentences. Here we go. 6 already. Good. Thank you very much. Oh no, I cannot read it. Now I need. Oh no. Yeah, I can read it. Oh no. Show results. Hello. Oh yes. Just fun. Come on. Just one word. Right, okay, it's okay. Fun, to have fun. What is game, man? I need a definition. A clear definition. Come on. Come on. This is good. Something that is not available in reality. Wow. Reality sucks. So we run away from it by playing games. If the game is too realistic, it's just a simulation, not a game. Game is meant to be fun. It seems that everyone agreed to one term. Fun. Wow, this is very interesting. Anyway, I would like to comment about this particular opinion. Who's wrote this? Who did write this opinion? Would you mind to open your microphone? Hello, anyone?
Oh no. Hello?
Habib? Is you Habib?
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Alright. Give me a moment. I need to catch your voices as well to my stream. Okay, so please allow me to comment on this opinion. So if I'm not mistaken, my understanding towards this opinion is it seems like Habib thought that the game should be inside a computer or some machine. Is that right, Habib? So suppose that we need some tools to have a game.
Yes, well, board game is a game, but what I meant by it's not available in reality is like even if you play board game like
Chess.
yes, like chess, well, we are not moving like that in the real life, so it's
Okay.
like something new that is not available in reality.
I got the idea. Okay, but
Yes,
so basically you still agree that game should not be always inside the machine, right? Can be in
yes,
a real life. Thank you. Great. The game is fun. If it's not fun, why bother? All right. Everyone is kind of agree to one term fun. I think it's very interesting to note. A kind of fun and interactive things that have a player, rules, story, and level. This is so much comprehensive. Thank you very much. Who wrote this? Who did write this?
Me, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Yemi. Fun
Yeah.
and interactive. Fun and interactive. I think I agree with some of the, especially I catch this is a unique term comparing to the previous opinions. I saw rules in here. This is very good one. Rules and story. Yeah, perhaps story is also important, but not necessarily, because maybe, for example, if we have a Scrabble game, Tetris game, or any board games basically, they kind of not really have a quite a story, but still they definitely have rules. So I agree with the rules, and story is, I think, is still optional, but it's good, especially if you want to create a adventurous game or something like the role RPG, role played games, or any other outside of the boarding games. Right. Structured form of play, usually undertaken. Did you get this from Wikipedia or something? Structure form of play, usually undertaken for entertainment or fun, and sometimes used as an educational tool. Games are distinct from work, which is usually carried out for remuneration, and from art, which is more often an expression of aesthetics. Who did write this? May I know who did write this?
Me. Okay. Me, sir.
Dennis. All right. What is remuneration? It is my first time knowing this word. Actually, I have heard that before, but in different. I mean, not in a game.
Remuneration is like apa you want something back, like there's payback for
Rewards?
playing the game itself.
Rewards, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So rewards for our achievement. Okay, get it. Thank you, Dennis. And there's another one. Something I could enjoy playing, whether by myself or with friends. Enjoy, fun. It seems that that is the main keyword. An activity or amusement used to pass time. It seems that this is to pass the time, right? Please correct me if I am wrong.
Maybe to spend time, sir.
Yeah. I agree. Maybe the writer meant that, to spend time. Amusement, fun, and then what else? What was that? The enjoyment. Similar keywords. A game is a form of interactive entertainment where players can overcome challenges by taking actions that are governed by rules in order to meet a certain victory conditions. Whoa, this is cool. Nice wording. I catch several keywords, important keywords in here. The challenges, and then I'm sorry. My USB camera is dropped. I need to fix it for a while, just for a while. Give me a moment. Okay, my face is back. Now let's continue back to this one. Challenges. So several keywords that is quite important to note in here is challenges, and then rules. The similar one, the one that is expressed by the previous statements, and victory conditions. So we need to know the state of the when does the game end. That's also very important as well. Okay. Life. Yeah, life is game. I agree with you. Game is a software designed to be fun, enjoyable, with challenge for the user to overcome and reward for the completion of the challenge. Except gacha. What is gacha? Who did write this? Would you please explain to us what is gacha? What did you mean with gacha? Hello? Okay, then I may need to just skip it. Right, next statement. Game is an entertainment that can be played. That can be played. That's good. So we have a lot of entertainments, but if we want to call it a game, we need to make sure that it can be played. Alright, the keyword is play. Something that can be played and it gives result on winning or losing. So this statement kind of emphasizing that the end of the game there should be a clear state whether the player wins or loses. All right. The software that has a purpose, a player, and a role. Every software has a purpose. Okay, maybe the player, this one, the play, would be the distinct property of this statement towards the definition of the game. Right, I catch it. Game is some sort of play that have a player, role, goal, interaction, level, and fun factor. Wow, this is comprehensive actually. And yeah, most of the keywords on this statement is the one that I'm going to further explain in the next slide. Some sort of play activities with the purpose of education or just for entertainment. Something that has to be fun, and there must be an interaction from the user. This is actually seems like everyone agree on the same term, to be fun. It reminds me that some of people even interestingly, when sometimes it happens also to me, when I play game I get more stressed because I cannot finish the challenge, I cannot finish the level, etc. So is the fun is the constraint? I'm not pretty sure that this one is the primary property of the game, because it's not always to be fun. It at least it doesn't always result in fun condition or fun situation. In case that the player is getting even more stressed after playing the game. Right, interactive media that mostly use sounds and image. How's about the YouTube player? I mean player means that we can press the play button, press the pause button. Even some YouTube video, they have how to say that, there's some scenario, or maybe I'm not gonna go into that, but basically it's not enough to define game with just as interactive media with use sound and image, because interactive doesn't mean that it is game. Because such, for example, maybe you create a simulation of chemical laboratory, some chemical lab activity. I mean, in that case, you interact with the software, with the visuals, with the media provided by the software, but you are not necessarily into the game, right? So you put some substances and put it into a bottle, and then interactively, I mean, you even though it's in your VR, you can put those substances, and then it will create another substances, etc. Interactively, you interact with the VR objects, with the media, the objects inside the media, but still that's not the game. So we need to add more keywords, extra keywords to this definition later to make it as a game. A game is any activity which is executed only for pleasure and with any challenge. Maybe I'm gonna make it fast. A game is structured form of play, usually undertaken for entertainment or fun, and sometimes used as an educational tool. Wiki. Okay. Game is a fun activity that players can play with certain rules and condition to achieve winning condition. Rules and condition. And the players. That's the keywords that I catch. Something to play, to entertain, sometimes used for educational tools. Okay, interaction platform, things that fun with a goal, and mechanics. This one is good. Mechanics. We will also maybe just for a glimpse to talk about the mechanics. And then fun. Sometimes some games encourage to play and learn. Something like program or activity. Yeah, it can be program, I agree. It can be inside the computer, or activity, real activity within our real life, for the purpose of to have fun and exciting. Game is a virtual world, not necessarily actually, that we can control one or more creature there. Game is something that can entertain the people who placed it. It gives you a mesmerizing feeling as if you are in the game itself. It can be good thing and great entertainment if you play it within the some boundaries. Boundaries, that's a very good keyword. Yet another keyword that has been mentioned in this particular statement. I will cover that as well in the next slide. Anything make player to have fun. Maybe need player's luck or skill. Fun. Something fun, yet another fun, but it can be bring a despair. Yeah, this is the one that it also happens to me, my own experience. Sometimes the game even made me despair or even stressed. Game is a form of play to have fun, structured form of play and fun. An interactive play that consists of the users as a player and objects in the play that can be used to reach a goal with some action and meant to give enjoyment to the users. Right. Many of you mentioned about the play, and it's as a specific keyword. And the next slide will talk about this specifically. So we will compare between the play and the game. These two terms sometimes is a kind of confusing, and people kind of misunderstand about these two concepts. Game is not a thing that can only entertain, it also can train how you think. Okay. Game especially one played by children, the equipment are okay. Something that can be played. Interactive entertainment in which you can you follow fixed rules and try to win against the opponent. Something that make you feel better if you got lucky and good enough at doing it. Right. 38 statements. I have read all of them, and then I'm gonna just go back to my slide presentation. Here we go. So what is game? Oh gosh, this is wrong. I should not put the the definition of the game first. Alright, I'm sorry about this. The sequence is wrong. So actually, I would like to mention about this verse. Give me a moment. Where is that? Oh gosh. Oh no. Wait a minute. Alright, so this is the first statement. So you can just neglect the right one. Suppose that you haven't yet seen that. Okay, imagine that a player kicking a ball against a wall, and the ball bounces back to him. He stops the ball with his foot and kicks it again. That's a play. So again, if we talk about the play, it's basically just a matter of an action and some feedback from the virtual world or the real world, from the reality, objects inside reality. They give feedback to us, and we again repeat the action towards the new stimulus, the new feedback that we got from the environment. So that's a play. Okay, so in this case, we mentioned about the imagining a football player kicking a ball against a wall, and then the ball bounces back. Kicking a ball towards the wall, it bounces back to the player, and he stops the ball with his foot, and it kicks it again to the wall, and so on. So that's the play. Now we put more extra definition. If the player needs to associate certain movements of his body with the movements of the ball in space, we can call this as associative play. So the keywords in here is associate. we need to kind of in other word, kind of synchronize our motion as a player towards the objects that moves in the environment. Then we call it associative play. And the one that we mentioned above, the aforementioned example, our imaginary scene, is actually also the associative play. The next one, if the player kicks the ball back and forth with another players or player, just two people maybe, still it is called a streaming play. So this is several definition. And now let's try to ensure that such kinds of play is categorized as a game. So please read the sentence on the right side. Now imagine those players agree on a term. Okay, the term is, let's take turns trying to hit that tree. We have to kick the ball from behind this line. Each time we hit the tree, we got a point. And the first one who got 5 points is the one that win the game. Or win. This is to emphasize several components inside the game that make it make it different with the play that we mentioned on the left side. Okay, let's try to capture, and maybe I will just going to ask you again. So here I mentioned the term, let's take turns trying to hit that tree. We have to kick the ball from behind this line. Each time we hit the tree, we got a point. First 1 to 5 wins. Okay, so that is an example, one of the examples of a situation or the play that is categorized as a game. Now I would like to again invite you to open menti.com, again www.menti.com, but now with a different code. I will show it on the screen. So please enter 2964616. Again, please open menti.com and enter the code 2964616. And this is not open-ended question, by the way. It's you are just required to mention 3 keywords. It can be a word or phrase. So please mention 3 that you think is the game's basic components according to the previous slides. Maybe I'll just gonna help you with the previous description. So let's take turns trying to hit that tree. We have to kick the ball from behind this line. Each time we hit the tree, we got a point. First 1 to 5 wins. Okay. Maybe I'll just gonna give you 20 seconds. I think it's enough. Just try to write 3 keywords that you think is the game's basic components. I'm just gonna move to the slide then. Oh, not the slide, to the Menti. Where is my Menti? This one. Right. So we got several answers already. This is cool. Thank you. just continue to type your own keywords. Do not be affected by the other people's keyword. Just mention yours. Let's take turns trying to hit that tree. We have to kick the ball from behind this line. Each time we hit the tree, we got a point. First 1 to 5 wins. Okay, I think the time is up. It's good enough. I'm just gonna open the result. We have actually we still have four users left, but I think it's okay. Good point. This is, I think these words represent the basic components of the game already. Thank you very much, guys. So we need a goal, we need a player, we need rules, we need some rewards, some instructions, some gameplay, some mechanic, game win condition, randomness, uncertainty. This is good. Challenge. Wow. Okay. This is typo, man. States, controls, interactions. What else? Winning condition, fun. All right. Objection, environment. Right. This is cool. Activity. Okay. Let's take a look into the formal definition, the formal explanation about this matter. So here we go. The 5 basic game's basic components. These basic components is the ones that make a game different. We can break down the components into some things like this, to separate it from other kinds of play. First one is the game space. To enter a game or another kind of space, this is kind of a we want to define that to enter a game is a kind of to enter another kind of space where the rules of ordinary life are temporarily suspended and also maybe replaced with the rules of the game. In effect, a game creates an alternative world, okay, a model world, and to enter this game space, the players must agree to abide by the rules of that space, and then they should enter or agree to the rules willingly. So it's not a game if people are forced to play. This agreement among the players to temporarily suspend reality, it creates a safe place where the players can engage in behavior that might be risky, might be uncomfortable, or even rude, comparing to their normal lives. So by agreeing to these rules, we will have a set of rules. Like for example, from the one that we have in the previous slide, we need to stay behind the line before kicking the ball towards the tree, or maybe we need to take turns kicking the ball. So if we have three players, so we need to take turns, player A and then player B and player C, and then back to the player A. We cannot make it randomly, A, C, B, and then A, B, C, because it will break the rules. And then if the case is streaming, we have a definition of streaming play, and in a game we can call it also a streaming game, maybe, or multiplayer game. If the case is that, then the two players in that case share the game space, share the world. And one important thing in here is we need to underline one thing. The rules should be agreed by all the players. Right, so the several keywords about the game space is basically alternative word, alternative mental word, maybe. It's not always a physical word. And there are some rules and some willingness. We cannot force anybody to join the game. And there is some suspension upon our real life. So that's the first one. The second one is about the boundary. A game has boundaries in time and space, and the space itself is not necessarily physical. It can be virtual space. There is a time when a game begins. Okay, it means that when, for example, the players enter the game space, the football players enter the football field. So at the time, then the game starts. It means that the game begins. And then there's also a time when the players leave the game space or end the game. So in this matter, we have set the time boundaries, right? The time boundaries. The game space, we can imagine that the game space can be paused or activated by agreements of the players. If you play a Pro Evolutionary Soccer or maybe FIFA, that kind of soccer game in the game console, you can press start to pause the game, right? But of course, especially when we want to restart the game again, you need an agreement from your opponent, the opposite players. Actually, to pause and restart the game, you need to get the agreement from the opponents, the opposite player. So that's in the virtual or the game inside the machine. Or as the case of the game within the real world, for example, the same situation. We are in the football match, a football game, with our friends, okay, with our friends. And for example, maybe your friends is kind of, I'm sorry, I need to take a pee. I need to go to the bathroom. So in that case, all of you are agreed to pause the game. Okay. You can go to the bathroom, and then you can go back, and we restart we start again the game. So that's also one of the, and maybe another case, your mother during the football game, your mother calling you, hey, it's time for lunch. Okay, it's time for lunch, and then you need to go back to home for lunch, and maybe other players agree then, okay, let's just get the lunch, and then maybe after 2 hours we go back to this football field and continue our game. So it's a very possible. That's the situation. The game is usually have a spatial boundary, just like the football field, the football field. And in this case, if we are outside the football field, it means that we are out of the games and out of the rules. The rules do not apply. Okay, the rules do not apply. I think you can easily understand this matters. All right. So there are several keywords that maybe we can get from this discourse. The time, the real, virtual space, and in-out rules. So the boundary can be time, can be space, and within that boundary, the rules are applied, but out of that boundary, the rules do not apply to the people or the players, right? The third one. So we have a game space, and then the boundaries, and now the rule for interaction. Some of you have mentioned this on the Menti. So the rules is very important. Within the game space, players, as I said to you, agree to abide by the rules. the rule defines the way the game operates. Okay. The game rules also define the constraints. For example, the game space, and also some restriction. For example, from the previous slide, we talk about the game of hitting a tree with the balls. One of the definite rule is the player should kick the ball behind the line. For example, if the case one of the players kick the ball beyond the line or past the line, he or she puts the ball not according to the rules, it means that of course I mean everyone can act to kick the ball beyond the line actually. But if the players do that, it means that he or she violate the game rule, and in other words, he or she cheats, right? So it's also very important to emphasize this kind of restriction should be defined as well inside the rule of for interaction between the players, and also interaction between the player and the objects inside the environment. Okay, so the constraint, it defines the constraint, or also some condition when the players are stated or categorized as a cheater, etc. And the next one is the artifacts. Most games employ physical artifacts. Physical artifacts is just like objects that hold information about the game. Okay, either intrinsically or by virtue of the players or their position. The ball and the tree in the previous game on the previous slides, it's basically the ball and the tree is basically the objects, right? And then for example, we in this case we set the rule: when the ball hits the tree, then the player get a point. And this thing, when the ball hits a tree, the player get a point or get a score. This is the information. The score is the information. And then afterwards, if we want to design this game well, we need to build some artifacts that can be used to track progress and to maintain a picture of the current state inside the game. For example, the one that I mentioned about the score when the player hits the tree with the ball. In real life, if we play this game with our friends after hitting the tree and then somebody got the score, maybe as an alternative you use a kind of stick marks, or maybe you prepare a blackboard or whiteboard and then you write on it stick marks, like okay, who's the name, maybe Bob, Alice, and Bob and Charlie. Alice got 1 score, Bob already got 2, etc. So we record the score information on a board, or maybe if we do not have a board, we can just put it on the dirt, right? Sometimes during our childhood we did that. And in this matter, we just make an information artifact, some information about the game states on the board or on the dirt. Okay. And speaking about the artifacts, the players itself is also can be artifact in the sense of their position. So we have their position. For example, whether he kicks the ball behind the line or beyond the line, then that is yet another artifacts. Okay. That I'm sorry, some artifact in the sense of the position of him or her. It also can, of course, the position hold the information about the state of the game, right? So that's if the case in the real life, if we play the game in the real life. And if we play the game in the virtual world, in a VR maybe, or in a computer game, then I believe you get the point already. You may put the score on the left side of the view, on the top of the view, right? Maybe if you play soccer game, you can put the team scores on the top left, and then the other artifact is the time, the remaining time, or the elapsed time, the elapsed time on the top right of the screen. So that's the artifact. So as artifacts is also important as one of the important components within the game. Right. So basically, it records the current state. It can be as a virtual or physical information. And last but not least is the goal. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that it's here already. So the goals is one of important components in the game. And players must have a way to, in this case, player must have a way to know when the game is over, right? So you mentioned about when the game is over in your one of your answers in here. Winning condition, losing condition, something like this. Okay. The state when the game is over, it is basically an end state that all the players are kind of striving to get, and it should be the state of the game is over, or the end state should be also understood and agreed to by all players. Okay. Sometimes the end state is defined by time. Sometimes it's defined by score. So it depends. And for the case of the previous slides games, the hitting the tree with the ball, the goal is met by the score. When the player hits the tree with the ball, and the first player to score 5, right? It will determine the end of the game. So that is the goal. So we need to know that it should be agreed by all, and we need to understand when is met the situation, whether it's a time constraint or score constraint or goal constraint. Okay, and we need to also have the definition of the ending of the game. This is very important. Okay, these are the 5 game's basic components. Right. Now let's talk about another thing. I need to hide so you can watch the slide better. So we talk about the constraint, and then the rules, and then how when or how to end the game. So there should be some agreement among the users, etc. And with respect to that, when to start the game and when to end the game, maybe we need to talk about the evolution of a game world, because we when we create or we join a game, the game is always go through these several steps. Okay, the first is imagine the world. So we in the first state, in the imagine the world, in this state, we are kind of define the game components, and maybe later we need to define the gameplay, the game mechanics. Basically, we define the game, how to make the game happens. Okay, and after that, so in the case of developing VR app or developing game on the computer game, as a computer games or mobile games, then the first step, this phase, is basically when you write a code or design your artwork, or you download some physics engine, some game mechanics specific library about the game mechanics. So it's actually you imagine that world, and after that you start to create the world. Start to create the word means that you start writing the code, start to combine all the libraries, how to make those things work all together. Okay, and after that, once you create the game world, then you open the word. In this case, when you maybe build the application, game application, VR application using Unity, and maybe this is the one once you run the application. So that is when you open the word. Or for any other people that is not the developer, then when they open the applications, if the case is the mobile game, then when they touch the touch screen and press the icon, or touch the application icon, and the game starts running, that's the moment when the players open the word. And then when he plays, then it is the case when he or she explores the world. And when he close the application or she close the application, then that is the case when it close the world. So later when you design, and I will start to let you get familiar with this kind of practice, defining the game, defining the immersion within your VR application in a neat way, in a structured way. I may need to later by the end of this course to let you again brainstorm with your teammates to talk about how to make your Minecraft world to be mentally immersed with the users later, by implementing or by defining one by one concept inside these slides. Okay, and if you have any question, you may ask me on the Discord or on my ITS classroom. Right, next, let's talk about the process versus the game. This sometimes that maybe confuse you. Does any of you mention about this? Actually, we will talk about this one, the randomness and uncertainty, as one of the important aspects inside the game. Without randomness, that's not the game. Without uncertainty, that's not the game. That's called process. If the case, the thing that we have is a very definitive, very deterministic, then it's not the game. It is more as a process. So let's go back to the slide. So suppose that we have a two dot or two condition in here, the two state, the initial condition A and the target state or the goal in here B. Between these two state, we have a, I'm sorry, maybe I blocked so this is initial condition, basically initial conditions, and on the right side is the target of the goal. So for the initial between the initial conditions and the target goal, we have a challenge space. I remember some of you mention about the challenge in here. Yeah, that's good. This is one that's deeply related to the challenge is not the components, but it is one of the aspects within the game. Okay, and we will talk about that in here. Both a process and game, they have a challenge. So not only game that has challenge, but process also have a challenge. But the way we face the challenge or handle the challenge will distinguish or will determine whether the thing inside or when the handling within the challenge space is categorized as process or a game. For the case of process, the steps is kind of very clear. It's a very deterministic, and the goal is very clear. It's unambiguous. Okay. So we have a flow A, flow B, flow C, process A, process C, process B, process D, step A, step D, etc. Maybe there is some if or some conditional statement, but still, the step is a very clear, and it has some cause and effect. So that is a business process. This is a process to answer the challenge. Okay, to answer the challenge. And if the case is the game, then as an alternative, on the right side, on the right side is ambiguous. It's fuzzy. The goal is fuzzy, and it can be ended in several possibilities. It's not deterministic. For example, you play. It is different when we talk. Let's talk about the football game. So, for example, you play with your friends for maybe with a standard duration. So 2 by 45 minutes, and then in the end, for today, the game is ended by the final score 1-0, maybe 1-0. The next day, when you play the game, the same football game, the same rule, the same football fields, the end result will be different, right? It can be possible, it's gonna be the same, but still, it's a very it opens a huge possibility that the end will be different. It might be end with maybe for the first day you win, and the next day you lose. It's very possible. So the goal is fuzzy. We cannot determine through the decisions, all the controls within the game. Okay, so this is the definition of the game, comparing to the process, right? To make sure that the thing inside the challenge space is varied, okay, or various. We need to make sure that we have a game design. Okay, you will learn this more specifically or in more detail in Pak Imam's course about the game development. So I'm just gonna give you some brief explanation or brief introduction about this. So when you design a game, you need to define I'm sorry, I need to hide myself first. You need to define the people and the resources. Okay, the people and the resources. The people can be the user, can be the tester, can be the developer, and the resources that maybe we can specifically talk about the people. It's okay, the people that is going to be involved inside the game, which is the user, and then the resources, the assets, and then the codes, the library, etc. And then, if the case is a virtual game or game inside the machine, but if the case is the real life game, for example, the football game in a real life, then we need to make sure that we buy or we purchase the ball when we have adequate length as the football field, and then we contact our friends to join the games as the players, the football players, etc. So we collect the resources, and then divergently we define or ideate the concept of the game, or if it's not already defined. If it's already defined, then we just open the word in here, open the word, and in this particular rectangle we explore the word. And then after that we close the session, we close the game word or the game space, end it after we meet the time boundary. Oh, I'm sorry, not the time boundary, the rules that maybe can be, I mean the ending condition that can be time or goal constraint, and in this case it's the goal, the time constraint. For example, for the football game, the time constraint is 2 by 45 minutes. So after 100, after 90 minutes, then we need to finish or to end the game and got the tangible outcome. So that's the game design in a brief. And in the end, we need to also design the. There's two things that remain in my slides: the gameplay and the game mechanics. The gameplay is about how the player interact with the game. So we need the game's rules. So basically, it's some of the components related to the components that I mentioned on the previous slide. Wait a minute, I need to appear again here. Okay. And then the plot, if it's possible, make the plot, the story, even though it's optional, and some objectives, or when the goal is met. Okay, some objectives. I need to hide again. And the last one is the challenges. So we define the challenges. Okay, right, we define the challenges, and then as for the game mechanics, we need to construct of methods designed for the player to interact with the game states, thus providing gameplay. And for these two things, actually for the gameplay and the game mechanics, I will not require you to analyze and provide your report with respect to these two things. Maybe you're just gonna need to, so from these slides and after, you do not need to worry about how to make the specific report about this for your Minecraft project. I'm just gonna ask you to provide maybe up to the. So basically, this one is gonna be compulsory. You need to finish this, and then define the scenario when the people starts to work on your virtual Minecraft environment, and then you define the challenge space. Okay, so it means that you need to define, maybe if you have some agents, you have some NPC and some scenario involved within the challenge space, then please define it here on your slide. So these three things: the game components, and then the evolution, the game word evolution, and then the challenge space. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation actually. And oh yeah, I have some example about the mechanics to play Tetris. Actually, we have several mechanics we need to code, or maybe we can also just simply import from other library. The first one is the rotation system. So this is kind of where the, you know, this thing, we call it a tetrominus, right? Where it will spawn. I mean, where it will spawn and how they rotate, and then their wall kick. You know, when we rotate and when it kicks the wall, what should we do? How the tetromino should behave, etc. And then some randomizer. Okay, some randomizer. So we need to show the users or to generate the new terminal after the one that has appeared on the screen on the main word in here. Okay, and then and maybe some scoring system. The points that we got, for example, when we got the clears. So when we got the clears, how many points that we got? Is it just a matter of one? Or maybe we apply some combos if somebody got multiple four clears, then we give them the combos, etc. And then the mobility, in this case, the abilities to manipulate or maybe the other word is the controllers. So how the users rotate and then translate, move the terminals, and then also the dropping when we need to set or just make it fall, something like with the graffiti, something like that. Okay, so that's the example of the game's mechanics. Right, for the activity time, so this is a wrap actually. And for the activity time, I'm just gonna let you work on your previous assignment on the My ITS classroom. So please help me to finish your discussion on the road to VR for education using the Minecraft, this one. Make sure that all of you, let me check. Yeah, many of you just write a single sentence. I still remember last week I asked you to give more explanation about the NPC, the agents, and the 2D world map. Hopefully you still remember that. And then also, in addition to that, according to our today's presentation, I will also require you to explain or to define the first one is the basic components. You need to define the basic components within your Minecraft world that you want to set it as a game, okay, for the children. And then define as well the game world evolution. And then the last one is the challenge space. In the challenge space, you need to specifically to make your to distinct your team with other team. So you need to define the NPC and the agent and the code, or maybe some other rules or some scenario that you apply inside the game to improve, as I told you, to improve the immersion inside the game through this kind of game mechanism, to this kind of game definition. Okay, so that's the one that I expect you to finish for today. We have maybe quite a lot of time. I'm just gonna maybe I will be online at 12:20, so you have a 1 hour to discuss with your friend, and it's also a break time where you can go for prayer, to take a pray, and then we will meet again in 12:20 to discuss about your work. That's all from me. And oh yeah, before I finish, maybe I'm just gonna give you some chances to ask a questions. Maybe some of you have a question. Right, otherwise,
Excuse me, sir.
oh yeah, Bram.
I think this is not like a question about the assignment, more like some thoughts on after receiving feedback from some class. I'd like to ask you about something. Is life a game, or is life not a game? And why, if if life is a game, can you tell me why life is a game? And if not, please tell me what are the reasons. Thank you, sir.
This is a very interesting question, actually. Right. So, life is a game or not? It's a very interesting question. Maybe I need to open my slide again. Let's check whether it has these several components. Do we have the game space? How do you think, Ram? In our life,
Pardon, sir?
do we have a game space in our physical life? If we want to define it as a game, it should satisfy this one of the components of the game space. It's actually will be back to your definition of life, actually, and it may differ between one and another. Right. And in your opinion, do you think that this is
I mean, based on the presentation you give me, I think life has some game spaces. Life has a game space, like example rules that given from example our God, or maybe
maybe okay, but I need to
from some descendants giving us rules.
yeah.
Quite frankly, we need to give consent to the rules such that we give willingness to these rules and thus creating the game space.
Yes, yes, and sometimes I also kind of thinking that we do not give our willingness. We are kind of forced to especially the rules that is set by our ancestors, right? But again, yes, it's back to your own how to say the understanding about the life. And as for disclaimer, this discussion may lead us to some spiritual discourse, actually. But if you don't mind, maybe I would like to give my own perspective. That's also taught in my religion, if you do not mind to hear that. So
Yes.
for in Muslim faith, we recon or we believe that this real world is not the primary world that we will live in. So we still have the afterlife and also the life before we born into this world. So by this understanding, by this definition, then yes, the current life on this world is categorized as a game since it has a game space. It starts from our when we were born, and then it will end after we dead. We dead. So that's the time constraint. Do we have a goal? Yes, we do have a goal to do a good deeds, right? And to avoid wrong deeds. And the gods will calculate, or later after in the afterlife, gods will calculate how many good deeds that we have, how many wrong deeds that we have, and then there's some rewards, the heaven and the hell. It depends on our achievement later. Do we have a boundaries? Yes, of course. We have a time limit. Our lifetime, that's the time limit. Do we have a real or virtual space? Yes. We live on this world, or at least in this universe. If maybe later you have a chance to go to the Mars, still you still live in some constrained space. Do we have rules? Yes. In Muslims, in Islam, or I believe in other religion as well, you got a holy book, and in your holy book you got several rules that you need to abide by, and that's the game. And for interaction, we cannot actually we cannot cheat in this matter. Maybe that's the only thing that we cannot have in this particular game, in this world. But we have several constraints with respect to the boundaries that we defined previously. And what is the artifacts? The game info is actually kind of very abstract. We have never record our own good deeds, right? And but in the case of in a Muslim tradition or in our Islamic belief, uh, we believe in angels. Angels will always write our good deeds. We have our angels on our right side, on the left side. That's the artifacts. The game info is recorded by them. The current state we witness by ourselves actually, and the reality that we witness also we can see by ourselves. That's also the one of the artifacts. The position of us inside this world is also one of the artifacts. So yes, the answer is life is game if we follow this kind of basic components. Surprisingly, maybe some of you before, and again, as I told you, it depends on your definition of life. And the evolution of game world, I believe that I think this is the life before our we were born, and to create the world is also before. The open world is when we were born, explore the world when this is our current situation, our current state. Close the world when we dead. Okay. The challenge space is not a business process. I believe that you agree with me, because if it is a series of steps, then we are robot. But God give us a privilege to decide the next steps, to decide what deeds that we want to act, and it may affect the next feedbacks that we got from the environment. And that's when we understand that within our challenge space, we have quite a lot of possibilities about how will our future end. And in Islamic belief, there are also some verses in Quran saying that God will not change your destiny if you do not change the destiny yourself.